Hello students, today I'll start the session with the topic types of dividend policies. Let me introduce the topic. There is no universally acceptable policy regarding the dividend. Dividend is part of creating the shareholders' value. There are two important types of dividend policy. They are conservative dividend policy and liberal dividend policy. First, I'll go with the conservative dividend policy. This is a policy by which the dividend is maintained at a moderate rate. The same rate is maintained from one year to another without any kind of change. And this method is based on the belief that the money is in the hands of the company is better than the money is in the hands of the shareholders. So, here funds are retained. For example, South India based companies like TVS group companies and Kirloskar group companies, they believed in this policy for a very long time. Up to the 1980s, most of the Indian companies believed in this policy. But the establishment of software industry changed the rules of the same. What are the merits of this conservative dividend policy? Yes, the conservative dividend policy is relevant to all the times. It creates an overall stability in the operation. There is no pressure on the management to achieve the super profits by undertaking dangerous ventures. The following specific merits are attributable to this policy. They are, first one is better treasury management. Yes, this is one of the important merits of conservative dividend policy, as the cash outflow is taken to a low level by way of moderate dividend. Here cash management becomes better. And the second one is stability in dividend. Yes, here achieving the normal operation and average profit will enable the company to declare the usual percentage of profit easily. Means year on year fluctuations in profit will not affect the payment of dividend. So this is one of the merits of conservative dividend policy. The third merits, that is organic growth. The expanding market or demand for products will necessitate increasing the production capacity. The expansion naturally requires more capital expenditure, which can be funded out of build-up reserves. So that is one of the important merits of conservative dividend policy. And the next one is inorganic growth, also possible in the case of this conservative dividend policy. A highly competitive market that calls for consolidation through mergers and acquisition. So the best way of funding such activities is out of retained earnings. So how it is possible? Because of the conservative dividend policy. And the next merit is modest expectation. Both the market and the shareholders will not expect a very high dividend from a conservative company, because they are declaring only one time in a year a dividend. So there is no expectations from the market as well as the shareholders. Hence, there is no pressure on the company to declare the dividend on the high expectations of the market. So the next merit is taxation. A dividend tax that may be payable by the company at a fixed percentage on dividend paid. So in the case of conservative dividend policy, the company pay a very less amount as dividend tax. And the next one is higher book value. Amount not paid as dividend remains in the company as a reserve. So over the years, the reserve increase the book value of the shares. All these are the important merits of conservative dividend policy. What are the demerits? The main demerits of this policy is the dissatisfaction of the market and shareholders, because they are not getting the dividends. They are not getting the interim dividends. They are getting the dividend only once in a year. So they are disappointed disappointed. And where the companies with the liberal dividend policy are many, then shareholders will avoid or keep away from the conservative companies. So this is the reason for the wide gap between book value and market value of the shares of conservative companies. Book value may be high for a certain companies, the market value is less because the investors do not fancy such stocks. This will result in less liquidity for the shares of the companies in the stock market. The next policy or next type is liberal dividend policy. Liberal dividend policy is a policy whereby rewards the shareholders by handsome dividends apart from the annual dividend. They can get twice or thrice in a year. So they also distribute a number of interim dividends with a single year. So you can take the example MNC company like Hindustan Liver Limited, ITC Limited, Glaxo-Castrol, Reliance Industries Limited, HDFC Limited, and such other Indian companies followed the policy. Now, what are all the merits? The first merit is good image. Yes, companies declaring high dividends attract the attention of the investors. When followed constantly, it definitely cultivates the good image. For example, in the year 1991 to 92, Bajaj Auto declared 100% dividend for the first time in Indian corporate history. It attracted the attention of every investor in the stock market. And the second one is satisfaction of shareholders. Yes, the shareholders are very much satisfied as they get a regular income, and there are many investors who fancy the shares of such company. Such a fancy leads to a very high level of liquidity in the market for shares of such companies. And one important merit, the lack of stability in. These are all the important merits of liberal dividend policy, and there are demerits. There are some demerits, that is difficult treasury management. Treasury management becomes very difficult here, and in case of company suffering reserves in the future, it may not be able to maintain the rate of dividend, and the growth of the company definitely, it is organically or inorganically, will be affected by the lack of funds, and also the high dividend tax. The company will end up in paying higher dividend tax if the dividend taxable in the hands of the company. So these are all the important merits and demerits of liberal dividend policy. Thank you.